My name's Fiona Williams, Head of Libraries and Heritage for City of York, and our project is a partnership between the Council and Aviva. It is to improve the financial capability of the people of York and also to put York libraries into the top 5 performing libraries in the country. It's a public-private partnership. Aviva were looking, when they were Norwich Union, they were looking for a community project to sponsor as they changed their name to Aviva to sort of celebrate their name change. And they looked around for a community project to do with community learning. And various people were approached and we put forward a proposal. And they were so impressed with our vision and one of our Explore centres that were already open that they chose us to work with, and they gave us £300,000, which was very nice, to both transform the Central Library into an Explore centre and also to set up a series of financial capability workshops using both of our staff as volunteers. We used £200,000 of it for capital, and we put £100,000 into revenue stream to support the workshops, to pay for training materials to be put together, and to provide some expense money for volunteers, and also for the evaluation, because it was important that we wanted to evaluate the financial capability stream to see if we could come up with a way of measuring financial capability that other people could replicate. One of the things that we did find is that financial capability is a very hard sell. Is that people won't, it's not everyone's first choice to come to. It's not a very sexy subject. So we had a great deal of trouble initially with getting people to come to the workshops, and we tried various different things. We worked very hard with our branch libraries, and using Aviva's marketing expertise, we put together a marketing toolkit that enabled library staff to go out into their communities and build up some business for the workshops. And we've run a series of sessions of workshops. We contracted with the York St John University to do the evaluation, and they put together a financial capability questionnaire, which we would ask people immediately that they went on the workshop, and then sort of a few months later to see whether or not what they'd learned on the workshop had actually caused a change in behaviour, because if we could demonstrate there'd been a change in behaviour. And we've had some success with that. We haven't had the numbers that we would have wanted, and we're still working on that, and we're just about to start using family learning outreach tutors to spread the message about the workshops. So we do have about 200 people who've taken part so far, and so we have, and the overriding message from them is very positive. They found the sessions very useful. They found the sessions immediately. They started to identify money that they could save, and so they went away with some very quick wins and could see that putting together a budget and understanding what your electricity bill says can make a difference. It was a universal offer, so it was open to everybody. The workshops were held in libraries. We tried holding some in community centres, but that wasn't successful. We had a lot of comments that people liked coming to a library for the workshop because nobody knew they were going to a financial capability workshop. So the degree of anonymity that libraries offer people encouraged more people to come, because they could just say they were going to the library. Nobody ever need know they couldn't budget their money. We do have quite a cross-section looking at the socio-economic groups that came. There is quite a cross-section, and we did reach a whole range of different people. We did some targeted work through social workers and through housing officers, training the social workers and housing officers in how to help their clients with better budgeting. So that was a one-day course for those workers, and the message back from them was overwhelmingly it was the best training they'd ever been on. They really needed more of this because this was something that their clients really needed, and they really felt that they were practically able to help them. but sadly we haven't been able to get a good picture of how they've passed that on, because it's been very difficult to reach them. Once they trained and they went out, and it was very difficult to engage back with them. So sort of again a lesson learned about, if you're offering people free training, maybe there's a quid pro quo of saying, well, you can have this training on the understanding that you know, in 6 months' time you come back and tell us how it's gone and how you've used it. And so we're planning to do some more of that, because we felt that that was a really good way of reaching hard to reach people, because it's very unlikely that the people who need it the most are going to elect to come to a 2-hour workshop on something that is a bit scary and they feel they may be judged, or you know, or they're in denial, or it's too late. So we also work with the Citizens Advice Bureau, because they had funding around this, and they used our material in their workshops, and they tried to do it through children's centres, and I believe they had similar problems of getting people to come along. Family Learning, who are part of our adult education department, they did run some courses for people on better budgeting and things, a 10-week course they offered people. And the Family Learning manager had been looking for a while for an outlet, if you like, for this, because she had somebody whose mission in life is to get people to better understand their money. Mel Griggs, who is the consultant we worked with, believes very, very passionately in educating people to understand how to use money properly. He's had a lifetime in the finance sector and is now retired and is sort of spending his retirement doing this. And so when we, so we were able to say to Aviva, well, we've got somebody who is just bursting at the seams really to come and put together a series of programmes and work with us. And Mel did all of that for a very, very reasonable fee, because it's what he believes in, and he doesn't, he sort of charges just a covering his costs fee really. So we were able to put that material together. On the transforming York Library into an Explore Centre, that had been a strategy. The library service in 2005 was given the vision to put learning at the heart of the service by local councillors. And so once we'd been given that, we sort of looked around to see, well, you know, what does that mean and how do we make that real? And we started a very strong partnership with adult education. There's a lot of similarities between libraries and adult education. People come really from the same place, the same ethos. And I really believe that public libraries are the library for adult learning, in the same way that if you go to college or university there's a library. The public library is that library to support adult learning in the community. So myself and Alistair Gourlay, who's head of adult education, put together a document called 21st Century Learning, 21st Century Libraries, which put forward the proposal of library learning centres, which is nothing new, and other places have done it. Tower Hamlets idea stores we went to look at when we were formulating our theory. And so we decided that calling them library learning centres would be a little bit boring. So we came up with the idea of calling them Explore Centres, because it was about a sort of imperative to, you know, explore reading, explore learning, explore information. And we opened the first of those at Acomb, one of our largest branch libraries, which was extended and refurbished through Learning and Skills Council capital funding through our partnership with adult education. And so when Aviva were looking around, they went to Acomb actually without telling us. They told us this later. And they as soon as they walked in, they knew that they wanted to work with us, because they really liked the vision and they could see that it worked, and they could see it was where the hub of the community had become really in Acomb. I did have a bit of a light bulb moment actually when I suddenly understood that the council is a really valuable partner to Aviva, because I think there's a tendency in local authorities, certainly speaking for myself, where you just sort of feel that a big private company, you know, who's giving you £300,000, we should just sort of just be very grateful, you know, and thank you very much. But through understanding how modern corporate social responsibility works and how they saw it, and what, you know, that they were, although they were giving us £300,000, they had a very clear idea of what they were getting back for that, in terms of they wanted to show their commitment to York, because their insurance and life companies are based here. It's one of their biggest areas, although they're in a lot of cities around the country. So they wanted to show they had a commitment to York and to the people of York. They get a lot of bad press through redundancies and things, and they just wanted to try and balance that a bit. I mean, obviously they wanted more people to think in a nice way about Aviva and maybe buy their products, but it was never about selling their products. So I think for me, I understood that as a council we actually had an awful lot of value to offer in terms of reputation and in terms of certainly equality, work around equalities. What we do in the council here, they adopted. You know, they really were very impressed with equality impact assessments that we do, things like that, which I think in local government you just sort of take for granted because that's part of our everyday life. So it was about understanding that if we were to go and talk to another company about sponsorship or about a partnership, that I would be very much more confident that we had something really valuable to offer, and that we weren't just going cap in hand asking for money, but really understanding what a true partnership is, and in a way the money has little to do with it, because the expertise that they've brought around marketing, around performance management, which we've been able to tap into, and just their general way of working. I mean, one of the most, I suppose the most important thing we've taken away bizarrely is a soap, which they do, which is summary on a page. And instead of doing long reports, they when they have to do something, they just do a soap. Actually, in our service arm here, Lifelong Learning and Culture, we adopted that when we were doing our service arm plan. So instead of the usual council reports of, you know, has to be at least this thick, you know, to be relevant, we tried to do soaps. And it was really, really difficult to distill stuff into summary on a page. But it was a really good discipline. And so, you know, that's now sort of just words we use around the service arm here, and has become part of how we work. So they have actually changed how we work. Certainly it raised the library services profile in the council, because Aviva are one of the biggest employers in York, if not the biggest, I think, probably after the university and the council itself, obviously. You know, everybody knows Aviva. We have a steering group for the project, which has one of their executive directors on, who is a very important person in their world and is lovely, and also has the leader of the council, Councillor Waller, on. And it was just really great that he felt that it was something he wanted to be involved with and wanted to sponsor. So we've sort of got top-level sponsors from both organisations steering the project, being interested and involved. And so all of a sudden people understood what libraries could offer. And certainly since we've transformed the Central Library into the Explore Centre, and, you know, I mean, people coming in their droves now, and it's got a cafe, and it's just a lovely space to be. And we had Narnia Day on Sunday where we had families, you know, queuing out the door, and it was wonderful. It's really becoming the place to be in the city centre, and all of a sudden a lot of other services in the council are realising that libraries have a lot of people going into them, that we do a lot of work with all different ages around literacy and learning, that we always deliver what we say we're going to deliver, which I think is really important, and nationally libraries are very, very good at delivering. And that we're very flexible, and that we are places where people want to come and do things, and that we have the trust of the community in ways that other council services don't. So when we went, you know, as we go into our round of budget cuts, first of all, there's a much better understanding amongst senior management and councillors of what the library service potential is, and also because they've worked with us and they understand that. It's been very high profile for the City of York. We were shortlisted for the Local Government Chronicle Private Public Partnership Awards. We've been identified as best practice. Ed Vaizey, the Minister, has mentioned us in a letter to all councillors, which obviously sits very well with our Chief Executive and our leader. And, you know, and it's really great that a small unitary authority can show that. I mean, we are one of the least well-funded of unitary authorities, but we don't let that stop us, and we still go out and achieve, and it shows you what can be done. So it's made a huge difference. It's made people take us seriously, really. First of all, have a clear vision, know exactly what you're doing, why you're doing it, and be able to demonstrate that. Be able to, you know, excite people with it. It really helped us having a building that people could stand in, because you can write as many strategies as you want, but if you need to actually make it real. So the fact that they could actually stand there and they were as excited as we were about our vision. So that's really important. I think second is having the confidence in what you're doing and who you are, about saying to them and being honest with them about what you want. You know, because we now have a very good relationship with them. We meet on a fortnightly basis, the project board, and we are very honest with each other about what we might want or what might be on offer. And I think so. It's, you know, it's that honesty and that being upfront and not being afraid to ask, not being afraid to say, is there any money for this? Or actually, we'd really like your expertise here, but be an equal partner.